All right, we're at the middle of the week. It's time to put a bow on last Saturday's win. What did it change about this season? And also, are there any concerns that are new that are now bubbling at the surface? I don't know, Steven. Let's find out.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Spartans, making us part of your game week routine right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below what you thought Saturday's win did to this season, because with Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports, that is where we are going to start today's conversation. We're going to start to turn the page from Saturday's thrilling double overtime win. We're going to look deeper into the season. We're not going to get into the weeds of Youngstown State just yet. We're going to have a zoomed out 50,000-foot view of what this means for the season, because Stephen, a lot of different ways you could take Saturday's game. Obviously, the elation of a win. Jordan Hall said it best. This is kind of the games that we have lost in the last few years, and it's finally nice to get the monkey off their back. Of course, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was nice to see the Aidan Chiles coming out party. Sensational outing from him, but Steven, it's also a little bit for me. And maybe this just speaks to the kind of person I am. It's also what the game wasn't. It wasn't a loss, because as good as the win felt on Saturday, a loss would have been 3 times more devastating on the other side of that. You're talking complete lack of belief amongst the fan base. I don't know what happens inside the locker room, but I can just go ahead and imagine nothing too great for the rest of the season. But you had a great piece at 24/7 Sports. What did Saturday mean? I think you're going to go a different route than my borderline negativity there. But what did you see, Steven?
Well, you make a lot of good points that I think are valid, though. And I know you talked about it. Other folks talked about it. I talked about it. Like the stakes were so lopsided in this game because a loss was going to be borderline detrimental. You know, it would have been detrimental, I think, to the mood and the vibes of the fan base and everything. Yeah. I don't think necessarily that the locker room would have split apart or anything like that this early. But then a win, it's like, and then, it was good. Everybody left happy Saturday night and woke up happy Sunday. Yep. But it's not a win that I think you're going to hang on the wall and come back to over and over necessarily. I do think the way that they won it, you mentioned like the double overtime nature of it, the way that they executed in the second half, the way that we haven't seen, the way they were able to respond to mistakes and overcome them. There was some toughness there. And just generally winning a tight game scenario, as you mentioned, hasn't been a strong suit necessarily for this program, even going back to, the last few years. So I think that part of it, like one thing I wrote was, I don't think a lot of folks realize, the 21 Miami game, how much of a moment that felt like for the program. I don't know if a lot of people realize that team finished 7-5, but on that day, it was the U, baby. It was Ray Lewis. It was Michael Irvin. It was all those guys. It did not matter. So they got all the juice out of that win that they needed. And whatever, you should do that. That's what good programs, good coaches do. Like, it doesn't matter, what sort of the reality is in that respect. And at that time, we didn't know that they were just kind of average, but whatever, Miami, that is. But regardless, that was a launching point for the belief in that staff, for the belief in that locker room. If this can be something similar, not one-to-one carbon copy clone, but similar in terms of a group that believes that everything's going the right way, believes in themselves to navigate tight situations. There's just such a value that you don't really see until you're dissecting things after the fact. But a group that's going to be now comfortable in tight situations, that's going to be comfortable coming back, that's comfortable facing game pressure. We talk about all these new faces or guys in new roles, bigger roles, things like that. All that stuff that goes into the pot when you have a good season and you have to win a couple coin flip games, maybe even steal one you shouldn't, things like that. We don't notice it. We do the fireworks and they run off the field, they dance and everything. It's like, oh yeah, they won, baby. But like when you go back and look at it, it's like there's a belief there, there's resilience. All that stuff has to start somewhere. So long answer, but if this can sort of be the seeding of that belief and lead that, they're going to be in a lot of tight games like this. The Big Ten's middle class is big and bloated, and it's going to be things. Yeah, I know this sounds Disney, but it's going to be things like belief. It's going to be things like a bounce that goes your way to win a game, let's say at Iowa, at Minnesota, maybe at Indiana, things like that. If you're going to do anything that you want to see Michigan State do this year in terms of making progress, those little things are going to matter. And if this is a game that can propel them and sort of steal them mentally and say, hey, like, we have to play for 60 minutes. We can execute in the second half. Mm-hmm. We can overcome mistakes. We can trust guys next to us if a big name player has to go out. All these things, if that all shows up, then there's huge value in it. I can't necessarily say that will happen, but we have seen it in the past under similar circumstances, and I think there's a chance that it could.
It's a funny start to the chat here because, like, ball, schemes, X's and O's and everything, but truly, like, we're so far away from any of that. And I think it is important, as whimsical as it sounds, the power of belief goes a long way here. You heard it in Jordan Hall's quote after the game, which I kind of referred to right off the top of the show. The exact quote was, quote, "The 3 years I've been here, those are the type of games we let slip away. I'm so proud of being on the winning side. It means everything to me to be a part of it." And also, Steven, with that NBC reporter after the game, and I'm sorry I forgot her name right now, but when he hugged her, that just felt like a wave of relief just leaving Aiden Childs' body. Like, holy crap, finally did it. We could finally put all these demons behind us, and that's not to say that mistakes won't pop up again in the future. That was almost like my reaction, too, is just relief. They can do it. Let's learn from this. Let's grow from this. This team is somewhere inside of us. Because, look, you want to bring analytics into this. Bill Connolly over at S&P Plus after the games, he always ranks, post-game win expectancy. And I'm not smart enough to tell you what the formula is here, but they take all the things that happened during the game and what was your actual post-game win expectancy? It was 24.6% for Michigan State. That led the nation in lowest win expectancy. They stole us from Boston College. So, hey, there's your analytics. Let's throw some grit on top of that. Let's throw some belief in that. And it's something that we haven't seen from this team in quite some time, man. But, hey, before, we keep on moving this page, is thinking about, does this change our expectations for the rest of the year? Really quick, Steve, what impressed you the most about Aidan Chiles' game? Because we're not done talking about that just yet. Co-offensive player of the week in the Big Ten. We rattled off a bunch of stats yesterday, like 36 dropbacks. He had 0 turnover-worthy plays, according to Pro Football Focus. He was 17 of 18 within 20-yard throws, and also 8 yards after contact, which was 12th best in the nation amongst all players, not just quarterbacks, but all players. What was your biggest takeaway from Chiles' game on Saturday night?
I mean, I liked a lot of what he did, obviously.
Hard
I think there's been smaller things that, I remember hearing the discussion last week of like, oh, that's the same Aiden Chiles we saw last week. I'm like, I think if you put your glasses on, you really look at it, there are differences there. And some of those small things, like I remember a couple of times he checked into runs against a 6-man box, and got them into a good play there and they get yardage, hand it off, and they move it forward. Like those types of things. The fact that he hasn't committed a turnover yet, I think you're seeing – micro decisions that are having macro effect, whether it's just throwing it out way to live another down instead of trying to scramble the sideline and force something. Just the decision-making, the checks of the line, I think there's a lot more tightness in some of that stuff. But to your actual question, I think it's probably the competitive spirit we saw in some of those runs. I mean, this is a guy that very easily could have just, skirted out of bounds a couple of times, saved his body. He knows he was getting pressured, at different points. He's going to take more hits on the night. He could say, I'm going to save myself here. We'll get 3rd and 1. We'll just convert it. But like some of the guts and just competitive juice he showed in some of those runs, especially that one up the middle, right through the middle of the field. I mean, he kind of had a fork in the road where he had a lane to the sideline, and he was like, nah, I'm trying to go score. It was like right at the 50, 45-yard line or whatever. And he cut it into the middle of the field where all the defensive help traditionally is. And just try to will his team down the field, man. He just exuded sort of competitiveness, and that'll take you a long way. That can really take you a long way when you're that talented to go with it. He's not the little kid from Georgia, like Stetson Bennett. He's not like a try-hard, maximizing everything that he has out there. This kid also has a boatload of talent with that. Yes. So when you see that fire, that grit, that competitive stuff alongside that, now you start talking about getting closer to that total package and everything. And so that the way he ran it, I mean, I've always loved him as a runner going back to Oregon State. I don't think you can turn that down enough. You have to be smart, but I don't think you can hold that back if you're Michigan State in any way and him. So I like that part of it, being willing to just do that. And then, you cannot can't understate 0 turnovers through 2 games. I get that that's a low bar, but again, we talk about growth. That's growth.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Plus pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every single model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And guys, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's Mazda, move and be moved. Also, guys, got to hear from DoorDash, because yes, that's right. It is time for Who Delivered, brought to you by DoorDash. Just like, hey, you can win every single Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Michigan State Spartans, the player of the week for Who Delivered, who else is it going to be? It's Aidan Chiles. He delivered in a massive way for Michigan State. Not 1, 2, 3, not even 4, but 5 touchdowns accounted for. Put the game on ice with that dot of a throw to Amari Kelly in the second overtime, guys. And just like Aidan Chiles delivered for our Michigan State Spartans, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Feel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period goes through November 18th. Absolutely it is. And look, that's also why he got co-offensive Big Ten Player of the Week. On the defensive side, it was a 2-pack for Michigan State. Jordan Hall, after his 95 tackle performance on Saturday night, that gets him those honors. So, the 2 stars of the game, who didn't get enough shine put on them, Steven? Because I'm going to go down the road that we actually last talked about the last time you were on this show. I was wondering if Connor Moore from FCS Montana State would be ready to jump up, play Power 4 football. And of course, one of the opponents, Western Michigan, not a Power 4 team, but I would say he's done more than held his own so far, just 2 games into the season, small sample size, and he's being tasked with not just being a right tackle, but oftentimes going to the other side of the line to play left tackle. So I know it's not the sexiest position. Maybe he's not even a household name. Maybe he never will be. On this show,
very sexy. Come on.
In this conversation between us two, and absolutely it is.
That's right.
But man, more people need to know what work he's doing and how ready he's come here to Michigan State. So that's who I want to give a little bit of shine to, Connor Moore. Who needs a little bit more love, though? Whether it's just, hey, what happened on Saturday, or you want to roll both games into it, Steven? By all means, you're the guest. You can go ahead and do that too.
I like the Connor Moore pick. I think he's had some good moments for sure. Promising. Definitely a lot to build off of. I think he's had a stronger start than I envisioned. I thought there might be sort of more of a gradual learning curve with him, just because he didn't have – he had experience, but not as much as Luke Newman did doing that same sort of jump. I like that one. Quindarius Dunnigan kind of jumps to mind. I don't know if he's been talked about enough. I think he's had some good snaps. Santiago has had some pretty good snaps, made a couple plays at the rush end position. But when you asked me this question, my mind went to Brian Lindgren, honestly. And I know he's maybe not everyone's favorite yet. I don't know anybody who really loves both of their schools' coordinators across the country, I guess. Right. So that's just part of the game. But I thought he called a pretty nice game. I think we're starting to see, if you watched any Oregon State when these guys were out there, we're starting to see like a scratch-off ticket. You're starting to sort of see just little peeks and glimpses of Oregon State in Michigan State. And that's a good thing, for the record. Like, that's a very good thing. Yeah. They had that offense by the time they were done there. Now, whatever it was, 5 or 6 years in, it took some time, and it was gradual. But by the end, those last 2 seasons, they were a very, very dangerous offense, and different is really the thing. Not a lot of people play offense like they do. You don't see this type of scheme a lot in college. So they were a hard out there every week by the end. And you're starting to see glimpses of that with the play action stuff, the way they're booting out. And I've tried to tell people until, my last breath, wait until they can run the ball. You really only saw like a couple chapters of the book there last season is what I'm referring to. Like, once they can run the ball, there's so much. The play action pass game does so much heavy lifting in what they want to do and what they want to be. You cannot do that unless you have a competent run threat. we've seen that they now have that, and we're going to start seeing more and more and more built off of that. But I mean, the game winner is a play action throwback pass to Kelly for the 2-point play. It looked very similar to some rollout passes that they hit to Masunas in the flat a couple times. They had a nice look to Velling that he probably should have caught. Maybe the ball was a little high or something, but there's so much more, but you've only seen the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more going on there scheme-wise. And I just think you're, as somebody who did watch a lot of Oregon State well before Mel Tucker was even fired, like you're starting to see more and more of what that was. And again, that's a good thing. That all ties back to the run game and the line play. And it's going to have to get better for them to actually do some things this year. But I just thought Lindgren, especially in overtime, the thing to Jay Coyne, I mean, and the way, not just that you're passing to a fullback in a high leverage situation, but the way, if you go back and notice, they're in the huddle and then they sprint up to the line. And so the defense is like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm not worried about a fullback. What's going on here? And then boop, he slipped right out the edge there, touchdown. So I get the offense, 19 points a game. That's bad. I get people, but it seems like people have sort of cast their opinion in stone already on Brian Lindgren. And I think you just got to give this some time to mature and marinate, because once there's a run game, the play action, the bootlegs, getting the tight ends legitimately involved and all that, like there's just so much more that this could be. So that's where my mind went initially, because I thought those guys did a good job. Another, I know I'm going long here, but just an interesting wrinkle to this game. First ever time that this staff has seen another staff for the second time, and vice versa. So Boston College's coaches have tape playing against Lindgren and Joe Rossi. Joe Rossi and Lindgren have tape of their guys playing against Boston College's coordinators. That's never happened before under Jonathan Smith. So there was some 3D chess going on in that game that we haven't seen other times.
I'm glad you brought up Lindgren, because on yesterday's show, we spent a good amount of time talking about Rossi, the adjustments that they made, specifically in the fourth quarter, because they sent 16 blitzes on the whole game. Now, that's not a ton. They only sent one, I believe. It could have been two in the fourth quarter. And that really helped, because they weren't getting home on the blitzes anyway. Let's keep a guy back in this intermediate area to make sure we have an extra tackler there to wrap up right off the rip, not pass coverage duties off to an already overwhelmed safety group right now that keeps on alternating between backups. So I'm glad that you shine a light on the other coordinator too. But look, we're going to talk about any concerns percolate here, but really quick, just for another few seconds, I do want to keep it positive here, because this is a post-win episode. What a great problem to have that you don't know who your underrated MVP is too, because Christian McCray had an outstanding second half. I mean, wait for him to come out into the light here in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Also, I've been very pleasantly surprised with Mekhi Frazier, Brandon Tullis too, Michael Masunas. Everyone knows that I already love him to begin with, but oh man, it's just nice to be talking highly about this team. This is fun. Let's keep this going, guys. Let's beat the Penguins here. But Steven, it was also a 2-point double overtime win against an ACC team that I don't think is going to play in their conference championship game. So we also have honest conversations on this show. Sure, we have a lot of fun when they win. I love Michigan State more than anyone. I also love real talk, Steven. Any new concerns pop up for you? We already kind of knew that this pass rush was going to be questionable going into the season. I think the pass protection is actually kind of up for discussion whether it should be concerned about or not. Where do you want to start, though? What concerned you the most after Saturday, despite the win? The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. That's right. New customers, get ready for this one. Because if you are a new customer to FanDuel, you can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We're talking futures. We're talking props. We're talking my favorite, the same-game parlays. Or, hey, if you just want to dumb it down to just one prop, I get it. Sometimes I do that. And not even sometimes, quite often, I enjoy that. Just like I did on Sunday Night Football, anytime touchdown score, Zay Flowers. Yep, that didn't take long to pay off, as there were a zillion points scored in that game. So, yep, that was one of the good ones that we hit over the weekend, guys. Again, they got the same game parlays. If you want to stretch it, go even further, try to win even more with FanDuel. It's any way you slice it. It's a great time spending NFL Sundays with FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the fantasy app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Again, guys, that's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Also, guys, Monarch Money, we've got to hear from those fine folks because, hey, most people can't even name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, you name it. And when you don't have the full picture, well, you could end up leaving money on the table. And that is where Monarch Money comes into play. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. You pick, it's clean no matter which way you look at it. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending. And you finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Do not let financial opportunities slip through the crack, guys. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's right, guys, a full year, half off. monarchmoney.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Again, guys, I'll say it one more time, monarchmoney.com. Despite that.
Yeah. I think in terms of new things, like the miscommunications on the back end. And I'll be honest, like we have a great bird's eye view. You've been up there in the press spots. Like you're much higher than the TV angle. You can see it's like an all 22, very much, just a very good bird's eye view. And there were a couple times my brain was spinning trying to figure out what they were doing defensively. It looked like this guy was playing this coverage and the guy next to him was playing a different coverage, or this guy was in man and this guy was in zone in a way that does not work and does not fit together. And then we saw, of course, on the touch, those second and third touchdowns, I think specifically, guys running free and guys trying to communicate, Jordan Hall trying to communicate. Like Jordan Hall passes that, I think it's the second touchdown. He passes a guy off expecting help behind him, and there is no help. I have a hard time believing that Jordan Hall didn't know what he was doing. I have to believe that probably somebody didn't hear a check there or just misunderstood a check or something. We're all human. Maybe Jordan Hall messed that one up. They were down in the student section end zone at that point. And Smith mentioned something about crowd noise affecting them. So I would expect them to get some nonverbal stuff going and hand signals or whatever between the guys back there. But that was surprising because they were very clean against Western, very, very clean with different rotations, doing all kinds of different coverages, sending a ton of blitzes. I don't know the numbers, but they sent a lot of extra guys at Western. And you almost saw zero communication errors and mix-ups on the back end there. So it was surprising how stark it was the next week. Now, you do have to give credit to Bill O'Brien and those guys. That's an NFL offensive mind, very good coach, and they schemed the heck out of him. And I think Joe Rossi's a very good D coordinator. They got some veteran dudes in that backside, but I thought Boston College schemed the crap out of them and found good throws and created confusion, obviously. So that was the new concern is like, man, you don't have Nakai Martinez out there. Although Amorian Smith's an older guy and Denson's played a decent amount by this point. I don't think you can just say like there's rookies back there, but when you don't have your guy, that hurts for sure. Malik Spencer was banged up a little bit. But just the miscommunication and the not being on the same page was jarring and concerning, if that's going to be a thing moving forward. The other thing I'd say in terms of like just concerns coming out of it, I thought coming into the game, I wanted to see whether the week one performance was validated on both lines of scrimmage, because I thought they were excellent on the O-line and pretty good on the D-line. Yeah. I wanted to see sort of pretty good to above average on the O-line and solid on the D-line. I don't think I really saw either of those. I think the questions persist. I'm waiting to see when can we stop questioning the O-line every week, right? We're all sick of talking about this. We're all sick of wondering about this. When is the question going to be over in terms of, okay, they are solid, or okay, the search continues. The question still continues. The search continues. I don't think we can say anything definitive yet in terms of they're going to be all right through the next 10 games. Mm-hmm. The run game I thought was okay, but it wasn't as strong as I expected it to be after the Western game. Okay. The pass pro I think is starting to be pretty significant. On the edges, teams now know that you can scheme something up and get these guys on the edges, whether you're confusing them or if you just have a dude. So I think that's an issue. The backs don't seem to be, fully polished there yet. So offense, I still have some concerns, and I thought there would be a chance we could put them to bed the way they played against Western. Defense, I thought they were okay, but not a lot of the running numbers look really good defensively, but not a lot of plays in the backfield. Like 4 tackles for loss. I think only one of those was by a D lineman. For a Boston College team that didn't run it well against an FCS team, I was hoping to see more havoc, chaos, more penetration in the backfield, more plays made, not just sort of creating a wall and stopping them for short gains, but actually, negative plays. Didn't see a lot of that. And then you mentioned the pass rushes. We saw the big concern that everybody talked about for 9 months in the offseason. So those two lines of scrimmage, I still think I was hoping to get a little more clarity and to be able to sort of stamp the offense and be like, okay, and the defense sort of get a little better picture. I still think there's concern with both moving forward.
And like the pass rush, I get it, and I heard it. I also saw it, and I did watch the game. We talked about it going up to the game. Yes, Dylan Lonergan, that offense, they do get rid of the ball relatively quick. Of course they do. It's also true, though, that having just one hit on the quarterback, never mind a sack, I'm talking just one hit on the quarterback the entire game, cannot be the path forward to success here. I mean, it's just flatly has to be better than that. So, yeah, I'm sorry if this just makes me, just the most negative Nancy in all of Spartan land, but based on last year and then going into this year, I think that's legitimately okay to be a little just worried about as we go further and further into Big Ten play, where, you're going to see better offensive lines than what Boston College has. That's not to say that they're an awful offensive line. It's just it's not going to get easier. So I don't know. Speaking of offensive line here, because I did want to ask you about this before, I just run out of time here. What's your thought on the whole offensive line rotation? Because we highlighted this yesterday on the show, is that they had 8 guys that got double-digit snaps. I mean, look, you got Connor Moore playing mostly right tackle, a little bit of left tackle. But outside of that, guys aren't switching positions, I don't think, as much as others are letting on to believe. I think the offensive line's been fine so far this year. I don't know. So, I'm just straight up asking you to help me formulate an opinion, because is it that bad of an idea that they keep rotating this often? And I've also said they're going to keep rotating Steven, or I don't know. Do you think it's an issue?
Yeah. This is my most boomer take, my most old school belief, but I don't like offensive line rotation. Okay. I really never have. Okay. I think there's a reason that for over 100 years, you've barely seen this. I think that continuity and stuff matters. I think we've seen just this last weekend some effects of so much shuffling. I do get the idea, and it sounds great. Yes, these are big people who are playing very physical, violent positions. They get hurt. They get worn down. The idea of throwing another big person in there who's seasoned and hungry and motivated and knows what he's doing and all that stuff just as a plug and play, it sounds great. I just think it's a little too much, the way it's every possession something is different, basically, even if it's a guy who's still in the game going right to left or whatever. Yeah. And they definitely don't go 2 possessions, more than 2 in a row without changing something. I just think it's too much for me, for my tastes. Mm-hmm. As you said, I think they've still, especially in the Western game, you couldn't tell who was in there because the level of production was high and consistent pretty much all the time. Now they got a couple rushes later in the second half and everything. We all know that, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent no matter who they had against Western. I thought they would dial it back against Boston College. They didn't. We'll see. Same. Smith was asked about it today, and it seems like it's something they still want to do to some degree eventually, throughout. But I just wonder what it looks like, in October and November. I actually, if you're going to do it, I kind of like the way that they used to do it under Mel Tucker, where it was you got your starters, they're going to play 70% of the game, and then we'll get a guy in at start of the second quarter, and then maybe give him a series or 2. And then maybe in the third quarter or something. But for the most part, and in all the big situations, who it's going to be. It's going to be your top 5. But then a couple other guys who've earned jobs or just valuable or whatever, you get them 4 to 5 possessions a game minimum, and then sort of go from there and try to predetermine it. If you're going to do it, I like that better. It's like I said, it's kind of just flavor. I mean, I think you can get away with it, but for a team that hasn't been strong at that position necessarily, it does feel like you're kind of taking away opportunities to really establish your first unit first and then, do the luxury stuff later. So, but I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong. I do think it's more chocolate or vanilla. What flavors do you like type of thing. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's always been a preference of I prefer not to see it really. So I'll be curious to see. I did, they have some older guys. It does make sense. But I have a hard time believing it'll look like this against Michigan, Indiana, Penn State and whatnot. I think eventually it'll tighten up in a certain point. I just don't know when, and I don't know exactly what that'll look like. Because, they're not going to not play Luka Vincic or something or not play Big Dooley. You got too many guards. Caleb Carter, I think, looks solid in some ways. They're throwing Lepo, and they're just not going to not play some of these guys. So they will continue, but how does it continue and what does it look like? I just think it needs to be dialed back, especially in a game where the whole vibes are at stake. I would have dialed it back, but hey, it worked.
It is what it is. I mean, you just used a phrase there, and I don't know if you did this deliberately or not, but I mean, it sums it up brilliantly. Getting away with it. Like, that's kind of what it seems like they're doing. Like, hey, it worked last week. Sure. Could things have gotten a little better with pass protection? Yeah, absolutely. Are you running the ball adequately? Well, I would certainly say so, but can you just keep doing this forever? Like, we're going to USC and we're going to do this. We're going to trot 8, 9 guys out there for double-digit snaps. We're going to swing Connor Moore back and forth over and over. I don't know. So we'll see.
That's hard.
I mean, you talk to any guy that's playing offensive line. They act like it's like doing surgery on one end and then building a rocket ship on the other, like it's two different disciplines. I mean, it's
hard. It's not just like playing receiver on this side, then motion across. Yeah. It is very hard. So there's, and like you don't. I think Ramil's a really good player, but you don't see him on the right side because he just doesn't have it down. Like it's actually very hard to do flipping side. So credit to those guys for doing it. But people have a natural sort of preference and tendency for a certain reason. I just would like to see more consistency there. I want to see them be I don't know what the rules are, a butt kicking unit first with your 5. Go run for 250 on somebody and then worry about sprinkling in this or that. But I want to make sure that I have a roof over my head before I worry about, what the
jacuzzi in the back. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Always great with the analogies. Absolutely love that. Steven, you're the best, doing fantastic work over at 24/7 Sports. You guys already know where to find him, or you should at this point. My God, he's only been on the show 18 trillion times. And for that, we cannot thank you enough, Steven. Once again, generous, your knowledge, your insight, but more importantly, your time. And guys, hey, your time's important too. Thanks a lot for spending some of your day with us here on Locked On Spartans. We will be back the next day, then the day after that, and the day after. We do this pretty much every day during the season, guys. But hey, until then, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Go Green.